Wow, it's time for another show full of tips and ideas from the sales growth leadership expert, Dean Akers. Known for his experience in hyper-growing companies and creating cultures for high-performance teams, here's Dean.
Welcome to your Sales and Leadership Ninja Show. I'm your head ninja, Dean Akers, and every week I bring you a rant to stimulate your thinking in the realm of sales or leadership. Today's show, I think you're going to enjoy, or at least it's a rant I'm going to enjoy giving because it really drives me crazy sometimes. I ran to somebody today and she had excuses, so I had another show written, and as I got into my studio, I wrote this show, and I hope it means a lot to you because it's really driven the success of my teams. And so today's show, excuses won't pay any bills. Excuses won't pay any bills. So, selling with intent. I'm so over people blaming things outside their control when they're in sales. The market, the price, the competition. I've heard every excuse for people in their lack of successes. The flip side is when I look at highly successful sales folks and business folks, they don't let all the outside noise bother them. And we've talked about in previous shows owning your own success, creating that ownership and how it looks. I have found in my career, outside influences almost never have an impact or equal to the impact your own self-talk does. Your own self-talk will be much more impactful to you than outside influences. And so I can tell you that my experience says is that when people tell me that it's competitive, I start with a couple processes. And the first one is I start with, what does the DNA of my customer look like? And this I constantly, when I talk to people, they go, well, that's all over the place, Dean. We service every kind of person that's da-da-da-da-da. 100% of the time, any company I've ever gone into, when we determine the customer DNA, it is generally not what everybody thought. I'll give you an example. Our company now, our customer DNA was all over the place, wrong. Our customer DNA peaks at a 63-year-old female. We know ethnicity. We know so much about them. So now we know how to go about them. One of my previous companies, the people thought, the principals that had the company when I first came in said, oh, Dean, the reason it's tough out there is the customer looks like this. We're speaking to an audience that has a household income in the 70,000 range and blah, 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 blah. We were selling something that was over $3,000. When we did the customer DNA, we found out that, by the average age was 32 and the household income was $38,000. You think they missed that one? By a mile. Now, what does that really mean to you in sales? What it means is I was sharing this with somebody the other day, you may be elk hunting in the Gulf of Mexico. In other words, when you don't know what your customer looks like, you don't have as great a chance at successfully collecting and reaching that client. And so that's one of the very first things you want to do is you want to get that profile, what your customers look like. And once you know that profile, and by the way, don't self-talk and tell yourself that they're not out there. 100% of the time when I go into a company and I took a sampling of 100 or the customer base, I always find the demographic profile. And I will share this. If you're listening and you're a CEO of a company and you don't know that today, or your marketing people kind of think they know it, invest in getting a demographer to come in and take all your files and take them apart. That'll be the best 25, 30 grand you ever spent. And in a lot of cases, you can get it done even cheaper. So if you haven't profiled your customer base, you're missing a big opportunity and setting yourself up for some serious self-talk. Every business has a profile, and most of them don't know it. So once I know the customer DNA, now we get to a second process. And I determined it years ago. I call it the 3 circles. And the reason I call it three circles, I don't know why I made it up that way, but it's three primary circles that when you determine these, it is always an eye opener. So circle one is your existing sales. In that, you write down your number. If you're in sales and you're doing 2 or 3 million, you write that down. If you're a company, you write your gross sales down, whatever it is. Then you write also in circle one the amount of sales you lose. Now, this is what's comical to me. I'll be talking about this competitiveness, and people will say, well, my closing rate's 70% or 80%. So when the first circle, I say, okay, if your sales are 10 million, I'm going to say you don't even close 100% of the shots over that. And they look at me like, well, I close better now. I go, let's just stay with circle one. You're 10 million in sales. I'm going to add another 10 million that you lost. Well, I didn't lose that much. We're just going to say you lost 10 million. Then we go to circle three. This is super important. Once you get your customer DNA, especially today, you can get how much sales go on in the area and what it looks like. So once you get your customer DNA and you find out that the gross sales are X, call it 100 million, and you're doing 10 million, then, and usually it's way larger than that, it's $1 billion or something, then you start just backing in and say, okay, if in my area there's 100 million, and if I'm doing 10 million, and if I'm losing 10 million, so that's 20 million, then I go to circle two, which is simply subtracting circle one from circle three, and that's 80 million. When I get there, I always go to people, I said, do you know what that $80 million worth of business is in today's market with the economy, COVID, whatever's going on? And they go, what? I go, that's the sales you lost for one frickin' reason and one frickin' reason only. And they go, why? I go, because you didn't even know about it. They didn't call you. It wasn't price. It wasn't quality of product. It wasn't anything other than they don't even know about you. They don't even try to do business with you. Or more importantly, if you're an outsized proactive sales, you haven't ever called on them. You're not even trying to sell to them. So when you know these numbers, they will shock you. And when you start quitting blaming things outside the control of your life, it'll start change. And this, by the way, is in every aspect we do in life, everything, whether it's weight loss, whatever. We're always blaming, looking for a secret thing, when in reality, eliminating your self-talk and just using the math, it always works. It always works. So you have your three circles. You now know that you have this millions and tens of millions of dollars that you've lost or not getting for one reason. You don't even know about it. So now you focus on knowing about it. So you've created a perfect customer profile. You know the amount of business you're not getting. Now you got to just start doing is touching those customers, and they always will come to you. Not all of them, but a lot of them. The fact of the matter is today, when you think it's competitive or you think all the other stuff, you still have this big window that doesn't even know you exist, or you don't even work them. So work on that. And then lastly, people always have excuses. So probably over 30 years ago, in fact, you can see how kind of dinged up it is, I created an excuse box. And those that are watching on the screen can see it. It's a box. It's nothing more than playing cards that are blank. I buy these packs of blank playing cards. You can use anything. You can put it on the back of a note card, whatever. And what I get my teams to do is write their 5 favorite excuses. And somebody goes, well, why would you do that? I said, well, just write your 5 favorite excuses. The dog ate it. All those things you did growing up. And then we put them in here. And the reason we put them in is when somebody starts to make an excuse, we just simply reach in the excuse box, pull an excuse out. And the first one I pulled out today for my excuse was my mom had to go to the dentist. My second one, Putin used it to rig the election. Third excuse, the dog ate it. Fourth excuse, didn't do one. Fifth excuse, someone stole one. These are all done by some of my teams in my box. You want to do this in your own company. You could make it kind of a fun thing and a comedy thing, but what it does, it starts really teaching people that excuses really don't matter. And as a matter of fact, you'll never get paid for an excuse. When you try to go cash an excuse at the bank, they won't pay you anything. When you're in a company and you're in sales and you're blaming everybody around you, blaming the market, blaming everybody else, you're not taking ownership. You're making excuses. I actually had one company one time, they said, oh, well, my support teams aren't doing a good job for me and they cost me business. And then I asked them, I said, how do you take care of your support team? What do you mean? I said, do you know those people? Do you know their birthdays? Do you take care of them like they're a customer? Because in fact, they're a customer. They touch your customer, so you want to have them, if they have a choice between A or B, and you're A and somebody else is B, which you don't care about even in your own company because you're the ones responsible for you, then would they always choose you? I usually find out that's not the case. So you use your 5 favorite excuses, draw them one out. You sit there and so now you know you're going to want to do your 3 aspects that will 100% of the time yield high successes. Every one of my folks that have done this has become a ninja. And a ninja is somebody that makes 200 grand plus. And what happens is they understand the customer demographics. They know who their customer is, 1. Number 2, they know the 3 circles, the customer universe. They know their current customers, the size of the market they service, and then circle 2 is the ones that don't know about them. And all they focus on is circle 2 and maintaining circle 1. And what happens is as circle 2 starts to get to know them, they all of a sudden just start buying. They literally start buying. And then finally, eliminate excuses. This is huge. You got to eliminate the excuses. So, thanks for tuning in every week. And remember to share this show if it helps you. My book, Self-Talk, Think Like a Child, is available on Amazon. I highly suggest you reading that if you enjoy the show because we talk about a lot of the same things. And if you ever have a question, just email me at help@deanakers.com. That's help@deanakers.com. And I'll be glad to help you. So today, go out there, eliminate the excuses, and own your success. Have a great week.
We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Subscribe today to our podcast and send questions or thoughts to help@deanakers.com. Also, visit us at www.deanakers.com to listen to prior shows and view helpful videos. Also, great tips to download. Thanks again. See you next week.